Hi guys, how's everyone doing today? Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you're new here, I'm Zita. Welcome. On my channel, I share with you the DIYs I'm doing around my home, the DIYs I create from thrifted items or something I have laying around my home. And I create these for resale or for myself or to give as a gift. And I'll show you the process that I go through to make these items a beautiful treasure again. So let's get started and see what I'm working on today. So today guys, I'm going to be making over some metal candle holders into side tables. These candle holders I thrifted years ago. And here are some of the materials I'm going to be using. Some white linen chalk paint, some polyacrylic, some Rust-Oleum black paint, some Varathane. And here are the metal candle holders. So first I'm going to measure out a dowel here that I'm going to cut down to fit into the hole of that metal candle holder. Just marking it out with a pencil before I cut it. And I'm going to cut these with a saw. And I'm also going to cut it with a jigsaw just to show you the two ways that you can do this if you don't have any tools other than a saw. So here I'm just using a plastic miter box that I had and just using my saw. This saw wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. But I got it done. So if you don't have any battery operated or electric tools, or you can use a saw and a miter box. And you probably don't even need a miter box really, you could do it on the edge of the table. So there's what the piece looks like cut down that I'm going to place in that hole of the candle holder. And so here's another tool that I'm using, my jigsaw, just done in no time. So I'm using some Gorilla super glue here that I'm going to put in that hole. Then I'm going to place those wood dowel pieces in. And this is what I'll be attaching my top round piece of wood into. I'll be nailing it into this wooden dowel. So press down on this for a while guys, like a minute or two, just to make sure it's in there good. And right here I'm giving the candle holders coat of Rust-Oleum matte black paint. And I'm practicing my safety using my mask and my goggles. I still need to get a respirator, which I would prefer to have, but that's all I had on hand at the time. So I'm using a coat of the black Rust-Oleum because I want to distress it later on after I put the white chalk paint on top. So I want the black to come through when I distress it instead of the red looking metal. And I'll seal that black paint in with some sealant after the two coats. So right here is my piece of wood that I got from the Home Depot that I'm going to make the wood rounds out of. I'm just taking off a sticker right here with an X-Acto knife. And this is a big charger plate that I had on hand in my kitchen that I'll be using for the wood rounds. Just measuring it out with the pencil. And I was able to fit 2 pieces on there nicely. And right here I have my board clamped down onto a table that I have, and I'm using my jigsaw to cut out those rounds. And if you don't have a jigsaw to cut out some rounds for yourself, you could also just buy the wood rounds instead of doing what I'm doing here. And there's what it looks like, guys. So I'll be sanding that down now. I'm starting out with a coarser grit sandpaper. So this coarser grit sandpaper is going to help get all those sharper edges off. And now I'm using a really fine sandpaper to smooth everything out. So there's what they look like, guys. They're not perfect, but they're looking pretty good. Now I'm just giving my candle holders another coat of Rust-Oleum black matte paint. And then I'll seal that in with a sealant after it dries. Right here I'm putting a first coat of Fusion Coal Black mineral paint on the wood rounds because I'll be distressing that as well after I put the white chalk paint on top. And I want the black to show through instead of the wood. So right here I'm just giving them a second coat of black fusion mineral paint. And now right here I'm sealing in those candle holders with some Varathane sealant. This is going to help seal in that black paint, so when I distress it, it's not going to take the black paint away down to the metal. Right here I'm just measuring where I want the wood round on top of the candle holder. And now I'm going to be using a linen white chalk paint on these candle holders. And I got a nice new brush here, a nice thick brush. And this brush was really nice for putting on this chalk paint. So I ended up putting 2 coats of chalk paint on these candle holders to get good coverage. And I'm also giving the wood rounds a couple of coats of the linen white chalk paint as well. So right here I'm just giving the candle holders their second coat of chalk paint. And I got my sweet dog here supervising me, giving me kisses, keeping me company. He's such a sweet dog. Right here I'm using my battery operated nail gun, and I got my super glue here that I'm gonna put on top of the candle holders to help give the wood rounds a tighter bond. So I've already measured out earlier with the measuring tape, and then I went around the bottom with a pencil so I know where to place them when I was ready. And right here I'm using my nail gun to nail the brad nails into the center where that wood dowel is. Now I'm putting some stack of books on top there to help that Gorilla Super Glue bond to the wood. And on this one I'm just adding some more of that super glue. And then I'm going to put some books on top of that one. And I left these for a few hours just to give it a tight bond. So after a few hours, I used some wood filler to cover up those brad nails. Now guys, this might seem a little backwards. If I had my time back, I probably would have nailed the wood rounds into the dowels after painting the fusion black paint on there, and then applied my white chalk paint on top. But hindsight is 20/20. So this is the way I did it. So right here I'm just sanding down that wood filler after it was completely dry. I'm just smoothing it out. I started with a coarse sandpaper and then moved to a finer sandpaper to smooth everything out. And now I'm just having to use some chalk paint on the wood filler area just to blend everything in. I didn't paint the whole table again, I just painted in the area of the wood filler and everything was blended in once it dried. Right here I'm just distressing the piece. I'm using a sandpaper, I'm using some fine steel wool, and I'm using a wet cloth. Now with the wet cloth you're going to get more distressing. It takes off more of the chalk paint. So if you don't want a lot of chalk paint to come off, it's best to use the steel wool or the sandpaper. And this is what it looks like when it's distressed. So those extra pieces of distressing there, that's with the cloth. The more finer detail is with the sandpaper. I wanted a mix of the both just to make it look a little natural. As you can see at the bottom there, I used more of the wet cloth. Here I'm just giving the second one some sanding. And this is what the second one looks like. And as you can see, the black paint is showing through and not the metal. And that's because I put the sealant over the black paint. And right here I just gave the edges of the wood rounds some sanding to bring that black paint through. And right here I'm using some IOD frond stamps. So I got some ferns and leaves on that one. And these are new, so you're going to want to give them a little bit of a sanding before first using them. So just gave them a little bit of a sanding and then wipe them down. And I'm using some black ink here. And I've put that first stencil on the thin mount. I think I put a little too much ink on that first piece. It's always so tricky getting these down without sliding. So you're going to want to hold it in place with one hand and then just press down with the other. Came out in some spots, not others. And there's another fern leaf. Kind of placing it over the area that didn't have a lot of ink. Just want it to kind of blend in and look more natural. It all works out in the end. Most of the time. Not always, which is how it is with crafting. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And right here, guys, I am using a fondant tool for applying fondant on cakes. This thing has come in handy for burnishing my stencils, and now it just came to me I should try this with these stamps, and it does stick to it pretty good. And what I like about this fondant tool is that it has a handle on it, so it's a lot easier to apply. So maybe I should invent this tool for stamping. Let me know if you guys have any tips or tricks for getting these stamps applied really well. Now I'm using a mixture of 2 green acrylic paints. I wanted some green fern leaves mixed in there to make it look a little more natural. So as you can see, these stamps stick really nicely to this fondant tool. And it's a lot easier to handle with that handle on top than it is a thin mount. So I have some, as you can see, some dark ones and some light ones. I just wanted it to look more natural. I think they both turned out really well. And you don't have to have them perfect. Nature is not always perfect, but it still looks beautiful. Don't they look nice? I love them. And right here I'm applying a coat of the Minwax polyacrylic on top. And this polyacrylic is in a matte finish. And this is the final step for this project, and I just absolutely love how these turned out. It's amazing how you can turn some old thrifted candle holders into beautiful side tables. So guys, enjoy this reveal, and I hope this project gives you guys some inspiration to make your own beautiful side tables from some candle holders that you've thrifted or have laying around. So enjoy this reveal, guys, and I'll say goodbye at the end of the reveal. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to give this video a like and let me know in the comments what you thought of today's DIYs. And don't forget to click that subscribe button and notification bell for more videos. Until the next video, have a great day, guys. And remember to talk nice to yourself and others today. We'll see you next time. Bye.